Pace. This is the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. No quit. So today's show, we're going to start with the theme, no quit. So the intro that got me in the mind state for this episode is how I got over by the Roots. So feel free to cue that up somewhere and listen to it at some point. What I was reminded this week in the midst of the things that have been going on the last month by a close friend, and something that he said, and that I'll have a link below where you can see where the context in which he shared it. But you can't lose the fight if you refuse to quit, right? If you never stop, then the fight isn't over. If you won't walk away or let it go, then the issue isn't dead. Now, the context under which I'm looking at that is, every day I get up and I know I got to go in. I got to go into work. I got to go in and be present for my kids. I got to go in and be present for my earth. I have to check in on family. I have to check in with people in the community that I have relationships with. I have to check in with my brothers, my pedigree. I have to check in and touch bases in different places. I have to continue to work on the things that I'm, trying to bring into existence, and the things that I have either been called to do or have asked and then been offered to do or allowed to do. I'm not always prepared, and nor am I without flaws at all times. But you go in anyway. And this thought around no quit, and particularly as I see it within the work that where I want to take production-wise this show going forward, is a very important concept, because something that comes up a lot and is a challenge in the work that I do in the daily, but also as I monitor sort of the culture, is, when someone is not tapping in to an opportunity, right, or at least what you perceive as an opportunity for them, or if they've asked for assistance or help, or people are saying they need assistance or help, or they're looking to make a change in whatever way and fashion, or looking to make some move within their life. And the question that I have is usually, well, do you know what you want? And then are you being honest about what you want? All right. Then, or sometimes some other place in the order, do you know how to get there? Or do you have an idea of how you're going to get there? Have you thought about what you think are the steps to be successful in that undertaking? What have you seen that you think needs to happen in order for that to come to fruition? And if you don't have answers for those questions, that's okay. The point is that you ponder and actually meditate on the question, right? That you don't decide that, well, because I don't have the answer, I will just stop. Because I don't know for sure, I'm just going to leave it alone. Because I'm not sure which direction to go, I'm going to walk away from it. Because I'm not clear, or I've never seen anyone that looks like me doing that, then it must not be something that is capable or reasonable for me to assume that I could become, or I could do, or I could be a part of, right? No quit. You know what I mean? How are you spending your time? If for me, my personal work, I've been working on some writing, doing more creative writing. I endeavor to publish a novel. I endeavor to publish some short stories. However, I have to ask myself every day, did I write? Did I put any time into writing? Right? Did I move the need? Did I get my pen to paper, or did I get on the keyboard and type, get a couple hundred words, at least something, into a document, capturing the things that I want to speak on, or the stories that I want to tell. If I'm not spending any time on it, it's not going to come. People spend time on what they think is important. People spend time on what they think is important. Within the manifestation of how I live, if I'm not spending time on it, then of course it's not going anywhere. If I'm not putting energy into it, of course it's not going anywhere. If I'm putting energy into other things, then those things are going to bubble and froth up to, to the top of the pot, so to speak. that's where it starts for me. Now, that doesn't mean that the structural realities that may be precluding you from getting to something that you want are not real. Never that. What it means, and what I'm speaking to, is what are you aligning, and what are you thinking of around, have I prepared myself for the victory that I wish to achieve? I mean, have I put in the time to build even just the potentiality of the success that I wish to see? All right. Further, as you're going through, and this is really important, to this thought and, this no quit reality as it's a developing idea for me. Experiencing failure is a part of the game. You can't fight to avoid failing. Right? Now, by failing, I mean that you try to do something and it doesn't work. Whatever that something may be. If that's, you trying to make a move, I know a lot of brothers do want to do the music. You're trying to do the music, and, your theory of how things are supposed to happen says, okay, I'll make, and this is an old theory because I know the game has changed. But at one time there was a theory, well, you make a project, then you promote the project, then somebody, people will find it and they'll buy it, and then it'll all work and be magical. It's a lot of failure there. I think a more day-to-day kind of perspective on it, for me, would be, if you're trying to, just start developing the skills to work and to have a regular job. So if you've been out in the street life, if you've been doing music or some other thing for a long time and trying to scramble around and make a way, and, you want to get a job and you've never had a real day job of any kind, whether that's in an office, whether that's in a warehouse, retail, fast food, whatever, I'm just let it be known. Your first job's going to be on some bullshit. It just is. And there's not necessarily that you're going to fail at the job, but there's a chance, there's a good chance either you're not going to be good at it, or you will discover how, if you weren't clear before around what you really wanted out of life, if you get into a job that you don't enjoy, you will know immediately that you don't want this. However, the response is not necessarily to quit the job and just walk away if you don't have a plan for what you're going to do with yourself. Everyone has to get food, clothing, and shelter. And within our structure in our society, earning some money is the best way to achieve that, without doing something where you have to steal, kill, and destroy in order to get, the money that you need so you can get the food, clothing, and shelter. You can't avoid having setbacks. We all have them. We all have started doing something and then hit a wall, and then I guess that's over. I guess that's a wrap. No quit is, don't stop. If you tell me you want to be in the music business, man, there's more than one way to be in the music business. If you tell me you want to do, you want to be, some level of public service, there's lots of ways to be in public service. Maybe the first way you tried to enter didn't work. So we find another. You want to get into the trades, there's lots of ways to get into the trades. Let's find a way to get you going. But if your day to day, if your morning, evening, whatever time you awake, has not aligned itself for the reality you to become masterful and great in your skill, then you are not going to get to the outcome that you're talking about. It might as well be fantasy land. I'm not here for the magical thinking. And, where I'm sitting at with this idea and with this concept is that you got to decide that at all costs, at all times, I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to stop my emotion and my energy. I'm not going to sacrifice my idea of what I want to be or where I want to go, for nothing. Now, point that should be added to that is if you find you're on a track that you thought was taking you where you wanted to go, and then along the way you discover that maybe where you thought you wanted to go is not where you want to go, and that's a reality of getting some understanding of the cipher. That then you adjust, you tack, or you make a little shift, and you align yourself towards the new target. Totally a good thing to do. That's absolutely what the no quit is all about. I mean, so, the one thing that has gotten me through in life and through challenges on many different levels, interpersonal, social, professional, is a refusal to quit, refusal to give up. It's the thing that I've seen that is most present in my elders, most present in my peers and my good brothers that have helped that I walk this walk with, and my brothers and sisters that I'm in my community, people that I enjoy the most in life, is no quit. So, I want to see you add on to that reality, man, and have no quit, and get them examples. They're out there. There's lots of them. Lots of people don't quit. The fight ain't over if you don't walk away. So, next topic, and the Midtro to today's show is That's the Way I Feel About You, Bobby Womack. So it's a very interesting time right now in the macro space. I'm going to center this conversation on black men, but this is a broader conversation around protests and other things. But I'm going to center it on black men because the tone of sort of the take a knee reality as it has started to mushroom out this first month of the NFL season has a lot of the conversation has centered on either black men abandoning the league, black men not wanting to abandon the league, about the motivations of the black men within the league around why they're doing what they're doing, those that are protesting, those that are not. Discussions of he who shall not be named, inflammatory and just wildly disrespectful commentary. And so I wanted to touch on a couple things that were keen to me or important to me as this has been going on. And, I want to focus on the best part, because that's how I make it. That's how I get through. Right. And, it's been dope to see, folks coming out their shell, feeling like they, to whatever degree, from whatever position they sit in, and from their level of understanding of the issue, choosing to say something, choosing to make an effort to disrupt in the way that they can. I always think when someone makes an effort to move towards some level of righteousness, or to push an idea that has a righteous cause, has a righteous intent, before we admonish maybe some misstep they've made or question the level of their commitment or challenge if they are really serious or how deeply they've thought this out, give a moment and acknowledge the idea that they have been moved to act and moved to do something rather than say nothing. I don't understand how we win by not taking a moment and saying, all right, I see you making a move. For those of us that feel, you feel you're more elevated in your progression towards, social justice or righteousness, whatever. We build, not destroy. We build to move and make the world that we want to see. We create the space for community. We create the space for village. We create the space for a fair and equitable society. We really can't get to fair and equitable society by just bashing heads. That ain't how it's going to happen. So it is significant to see people make a move, to see people say something. The particular criticism, and I'm not gonna rehash it, but the one thought I will share about my own position on this. I've been having, for the last couple of years, trying to move my own relationship to football. Football was the last sport that I maintained some sort of like emotional engagement during the season. And by emotional, I mean where like I cut away space and time to like watch the football. I cut away space and time to listen to the commentary after the football. I cut away space and time to read articles to see what was going on with the team. I cut away space and time to like, watch the games and yell at the TV and all that type of stuff. I'm a, New York Giants fan. Made no secret about that. The last 3 years outside of last year was cool actually, but most of the last 3 or 4 years have been disappointing to say the least. However, it's a lot of energy that I recognize I'm putting in to this sport that I don't control. I grew up as a kid, as a youth. I had a similar affection for the New York Knicks with basketball, and that into the 90s. And there was a point in the 90s, especially when I was getting the knowledge of myself, where I decided, you know what, I can't do this with basketball no more. This is, some other things probably I realized reflecting facilitated that too. I didn't have cable or really no way to watch football. I didn't really have money to be sitting in a bar drinking to watch basketball games. And, most of the late 90s, I tuned in and out here and there when I had the time. But, and I would go read on the early internet to get scores, stuff like that. But I couldn't watch. I couldn't keep track no more. But I moved that out of a space where if the team I rooted for won or lost, that it would really move me in terms of my emotional mental state of mind. There's a lot of problems in professional sports as an entity, but let's center in on the NFL. The cost that's paid physically by the players, regardless how you feel about what they're paid, is a reasonable, fair exchange for the physical cost. That we can discuss that. I know that there are men that decided to play, and then put lots of time to become masters of that play. They're not magically there, so I acknowledge that and understand that there's a high cost for the reward that they receive. The general way we treat NFL players is rather distasteful. And so, that's in the mix. The other in the mix is the domestic violence reality. Now, for me, some people center this idea as if domestic violence is a heightened reality within football and football players. And I'm just put this out and say it plain in case you've never heard me say it before. I've worked in social services and education professionally or just as a community volunteer and been a part of the community my whole life. I've been, in a professional capacity one way or another since 1995. In my time working with young people, working with families, being a member of a community, when there's been issues of domestic violence and the impacts that has on the victims and the participants and everything that's involved with it, the vast majority of those dudes had nothing that were perpetrators. And in the instances where, as perpetrators, the vast majority of those cases and all of those incidents, from rumblings in classrooms, this kid's having a rough one, something happened. His dad came home, or this, is in and out of the house. The stepfather did this or that. Generally, issues of abuse were not perpetrated by dudes who played football, were NFL players, had anything to do with football. Right. So the idea that somehow domestic violence sits in the NFL's hand and in NFL players' lives only is ridiculous. The operational and the way the NFL has handled these domestic violence issues is very much akin to the way we generally handle domestic violence issues, in that we don't tend to care as a society. If you look at the numbers, you look at the way we treat victims, we look at the way we treat those that report, the way what we highlight as an area of concern in cases typically does not center on, can we make sure the victim is okay? Can we get healing for the victim? Right. And then if we're going to, on the end of the perpetrator, can we get them into treatment? Can we get them into treatment that's effective? Do we have ongoing support? Do we care? Do we respect the systems that are trying to do things to give space for the victim to heal enough that they can hopefully advocate for themselves. It's so much more complicated and a deep issue. And so I feel like folks are trying to push off their own lack of regard in the issue in general and seat it in the NFL and be like, yeah, look at those football players. That CTE must be making them violent. No, we are violent. We have a violent society. Violence has permeated and been a grounding concept within the structure of this society from day one. We had subjugation culture, right? You don't keep people in bondage and slavery without violence. Right? Violence dictates a lot of things that go on in this society, and to act as if that violence is centered in NFL football players and does not sit with the majority of us it's ridiculous and it's disrespectful. So although I was not pleased and the NFL's process is wildly inconsistent, and I can't tell what the therapeutic direction or anything they're trying to do, that alone is a direct reflection of the way the rest of y'all treat domestic violence. So that alone wasn't going to get me out the league. It doesn't help though. So, and also, like I said, the pain and the causes for the players. But this year, in watching this process, and as this is played out, I knew the reasonable outcome would be that no team would sign the man. This, Kaepernick, as we're talking about. He made a very, he's spoken well for himself, so I don't need to speak to it. And anybody that keeps making this about the anthem or the flag as the point of protest is just not trying. You look up Eric Reed's most recent article in the New York Times. Go to anyone, some of the folks that are protesting, their Twitter pages, whatever. They're telling you right there why they're taking a knee. Right? You don't have to. You're out here making up these stories. Well, for me, pulling away from the league and the watching and the sports and everything else is a personal move. I got a lot of stuff I'm trying to get done. If you listen to some of these episodes this summer and the changes and rearranges, trying to get my production schedule set up for this so that I can come with some interviews, which is what I really want to have on here, not me, going in for however long I end up going in today. I need to put the time in. And guess when's a good time for me to do that? Sundays. And sitting watching, 2-3 games, the better half of 6-7 hours of football. It's not going to cut it. And, this the whole nature of the monster is, it's easier to, the best way to master something is to leave it alone. So, leave it alone. Your man's recent comments, though, put me in a tough spot. Because then I'm like, hold up, man, you ain't going to disrespect these men. Maybe I need to watch, to show them love. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm still going to stay away, let it do its own thing. But anyone who somehow just can't grasp, the reality that someone is trying to let you know they are in pain and they're feeling harm and they're trying to do it in a way without hurting somebody else, right? Yeah, so you're saying, they're hurting the veterans. Well, that's been refuted. We all know, yes, some veterans are going to be upset, but, this ain't the world to please no veteran. The flag belongs to us, too. We U.S. citizens, the flag belongs to us. Citizens. It's my country. I was born here. My grandma was born here. Great-grandfather was born here. From what I can see, although I hadn't had time to finish working on it, I'm pretty sure I got blood relatives back to day one, Revolutionary War, whole 9 yards. So, real talk, ease back. I got as much standing to have a position on this as any of you folks, especially y'all folks that maybe y'all folks got here 100 years ago, if that's what we're going to play that game. You know what I mean? But in any event, I'm going to move away from that. So, it's been good. You know what I mean? LeBron's statements, man, Kobe out here tweeting. You know what I mean? Howard Bryant has been on fire on the Twitter and in some other spaces with his writing and his statements on this. Dan Le Batard keeps telling y'all over and over again, if y'all call this an anthem protest one more time, he's gonna lose his bananas. You know what I mean? He's gonna lose his lunch. Folks are telling you this is about brutality, this is about pain, this is about feeling oppression, and when you try to tell folks that you're feeling this, you're asking me to come out here and stand and be proud and put my heart on my chest and say I love and basically agree with the energy of love of the country. And at the same time, somebody that looks like me could be shot tomorrow, and all somebody got to do is say, well, I was scared for my life. I thought he had a gun. It seems suspicious. I was scared, and it's a reasonable reason. We just accept that is cool. That is, you can't keep asking that. So, to those, I say, man, take a knee, and in whatever space you're in, man, get that echo chamber going, and remind anyone that comes at you with it, this is about brutality. This is about unfair treatment. This is about calls for justice not being respected. So I'm going to say peace. It's a very important moment, very, very important moment for our country, for our community, and in terms of a area that at least it's presumed that men are the primary engagers of the entertainment, that being NFL football. It's a big moment for black men to, make a move. And I support every one of those brothers that's, taking the knee, raising the fist. I know some folks thought it was a little too far with LaShawn McCoy. However, sometimes, man, when your man was wild out of pocket, and I don't know what, lands you from. However, from the ethic that I came up in, when someone goes way out of pocket, you feel, well, all right, I'm going to go way out of pocket the other way just to let you know how real it is. So I can respect the tone, the energy that he was coming with. All right. So for my last section, the last thing I wanted to add on about today, I got a new idea. I'm calling it Because It's Dope, and that's Laila's Wisdom, which is this new album by Rapsody. Listened through it back to back, gave a couple spins over and over. The sister is nice. In my own efforts to be a better man and to fight the tape in my own head as it pertains to sexism. Not to say that I haven't liked female artists, MCs specifically, in the past, but I bear witness to reality that I don't give female MCs as much of a chance as I will male MCs, and I keep working on that. However, with that, so I've listened to some of the sister's music before. I've liked when she's her work when she showed up on different other projects. It's dope. So that's the end of that. Check it out. So in closing, going to just what's happening with me personally right now. My daughter's started middle school. It's terrifying. She's bright, exciting. She's very interested. She's a whirlwind at times. She could be, she's my daughter. I love her. Now, the place where I get the terror, I'm sure someone would go, oh yeah, the boys, they're going to try to have sex with her. Not really that lane. That's not my lane. I am a protective father. I am. However, the thing that I know from my study and from my experience and from my engagement with other women and women telling me their stories and me learning to listen is, there's a sickness in our society. And I fear that sickness in our society will turn her off from her calling and the path that she is finding with the guidance and protection of her parents and her elders. Right? That the body image stuff, the sexualization of young women. If you haven't done some research, I advise you to hit the internets and look up some of the data on when women report first feeling sort of sexualized or someone coming at them in a sexual way. It's like 9, 10 years old, right? So my daughter's already past that age. She's in middle school. This is real. The messaging that's going to come to her about her place, what things she should focus on. She has lots of interests. I don't want to see her lose the love and the energy that she has and the direction that she's going because some bullshit, some either punk ass kid, some misguided teacher, some so-called well-meaning mentor, some other one of her peers, that's another girl saying who may be wrapped up in whatever stuff she done ingested. I can't abide it, right? So I worry. But also, the thing that's been really exciting is that she comes home every day and she kind of wants to run down her day. She wants to process, either with me or with her mother, and share sort of like, this happened, this went on, and this went into this. She's much more talkative in that way than her older brother. He was much more like, yeah, it was cool. It wasn't cool. You know what I mean? She needs to, decompress and process. And it's been beautiful, and I want to keep her energy going and keep supporting her to keep talking. I love my daughter. I love my children. I love other people's kids. I mean, I want to see your kids be great, be happy. Middle school is a rough time sometimes. So, if you're out there engaging in working through those sciences, add on the Twitter how you trying to manage it. You know what I'm saying? Cool. So we're going to get ready to wrap up. The outro music for today's show is Desire, Kamasi Washington. Beautiful song. Fantastic record. I just sat and listened to it all last night. I really enjoy. If you're not a jazz listener, I don't know, give it a shot. In the show notes, I want to give a quick shout out to @BlackManGreenPlan. He helped actually solidify my thoughts around what to add on about for this show and the no quit theme. There'll be a link at the show notes, actually to a little post he did from his Instagram. So, check for that. There'll be a couple other things there that you should check for, particularly Wallow267, who I enjoy on Instagram, and I encourage you to add on, check out what the brothers got to say. We always got to find motivation and positive energy where we can find it. And if you ain't looking for it, that's probably why you ain't finding it. So, in closing, I will say, in all things, I want to see your greatness. My motivation to work in my daily life and in my personal creative work is to push folks to push themselves. There's no need to settle for what we'll do when you can do what you will. So get after it. Peace. Peace. This has been the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. Travel safely. Peace.